Hey all, how's it going? So let's talk about helmet setups today. So when it comes to night vision helmet setups, I'd say this is kind of the next step then somebody takes in the hobby, right? In my opinion, there is definitely a way to cut that cost as much as possible without sacrificing too much functionality. I believe the first thing that needs to be established is expectation. You need to think about what would you want to do with your night vision setup. There's a few different schools of thoughts, right? It's important to understand that if you know you're gonna use your device twice, 3 times a year, then you definitely have room to save in certain areas. Whether if you use your device constantly, let's say you own a plot of land, right? And you're out and about taking care of your animals or whatever, right, in the middle of the night, and you're constantly using your device multiple times a week, then it makes sense for you to spend more money and get a setup that is more dependable. But for example, for somebody like me that is going to use it 3-4 times a year in a very recreational way, I set my expectations to that level and I understand what I need to accomplish, right, with the setup to be successful at that. I didn't see a point in spending $300 for a piece of plastic bump helmet. I was definitely not going to spend money for a ballistic helmet, so there's definitely ways around that. So let's talk about this helmet setup. The helmet, the base helmet, so this is a Chinese bump helmet. There is something that needs to be understood about Chinese gear, and I will make a video about it. There is different levels of things, and in my opinion, the good thing that comes about ordering gear directly from China is that usually what you pay is what you get, in the sense that nowadays that concept is very blurred. Amazon became just a Chinese third-party reseller where people will buy drop shipping massive amount of goods from Alibaba and then resell on Amazon with an insane markup to Americans. And you can cut that by just directly ordering from China, but at least there you get a lot more selection, right? So if you go on Amazon, you buy a $30 bump helmet, it's not gonna be a good helmet. And I've tried a few, they're not good. So this is a Team, obviously it's a very obvious Team Wendy replica, but this is a $70 helmet directly from China. And spending that much money on a helmet in Chinese terms gives you a lot of quality, right? So first of all, as you can see, pretty solid, thick plastic, nice shroud, and I'll show you that in a second. But also, the cool thing is that you get a full padding inside, nice suspension, ratcheting mechanism. The helmet shroud, I'm gonna detach my mount. The amount of rattle that you get, it's very I wouldn't even call it that. And this cable here, this bungee, there is not that much tension. This is a retaining device, but as you can see, in the shroud, there is no plate, which is super nice. Speaking of the mount, this is another important piece of the whole setup, right? And this is a Wilcox G24, but it isn't, because again, it's a replica. It is a fully aluminum replica that I've seen many people review, and I decided to give it a try. So again, you can spend $60 to $100 depending whether you order it from the US or directly from China. It's the same product, but this thing is quality, I'm not gonna lie. So obviously I took some precaution, I double checked all the functions. I unscrewed every screw, Loctite it, torqued it back on, and this thing is just nice. It's super, like, I struggle to see the benefit for my situation to pay $500 for the same amount. I'm gonna pull out my tube.
Io provo a fare la rannata. Porco Dio, non ci credo, Vez, non ci credo. Non ci voglio.
I have my tube here, which is just a standard PVS 14, and I do have a Wilcox J-arm on it. This is an actual Wilcox J-arm on it. Let's talk about the tube more in detail in a second, but as you can see, the interface with the Wilcox, it's honestly just like perfect. You obviously have some play here, which is normal, but you can mitigate it with even more tension, and then every single function is kept there. The nice thing about the Wilcox J-arm that it does allow you to depress this and switch eye positioning. I have no use for it. Night vision on my left eye makes me confused. I don't like it, so the right eye is the only one that I do use. You know, that's a nice feature. Speaking of retention devices, I think those are important, especially when you're using this sort of gear, right? It doesn't cost that much extra to just take some mental precautions, and in my case it costs even less than not much, because so this I made myself, and I will include some clips of me making it. It's just a simple, I forgot what it's called. Some company makes something very similar. It's just a Velcro stick-on piece, bungee cords, and then I found whatever was laying around in my house that have shrink wrapped it, and this just clips on into the tube. So in case the tube detaches from the mount, it is retained here, and then as I showed previously, this is in case the mount detaches from the helmet, everything is held together, right? So you have two levels there of extra security. But this is pretty nice, just a retaining feature. When you fold the tube down, it adds a tiny bit of tension, which is nice, but as you can see, this tube doesn't have that much wiggle room except for in this axis. It's really not bad, I don't notice it much. Onto the back of the helmet, I have a counterweight pouch. This is directly from Amazon. It's a $18 Krydex pouch. I've talked about Krydex gear in the past. They make good stuff, affordable good stuff. Cordura fabric, it's pretty quality. As you can see, it has counterweight section, some elastic for cable management. So when I do use my hearing protection, I can kind of do some cable management there. And then here I have my strobe. This is a kind of an older MS-2000 strobe. This is kind of an extra. I always had one laying around, so I threw it on the helmet. I don't know how much I'm gonna use it. It's just a nice to have. I don't think if you need to set up night vision helmet, you necessarily need it unless you don't. So cost-wise, the helmet was about $70, and then we have the counterweight pouch for about $18. The mount was, for me, I paid $100, so we're right about $200 there, and then the tube itself, right? So we're gonna have to talk about that in a second. And then retaining device, you can get creative. Like I said, I suit my own. So when it comes to the tube, again, tubes are expensive, relatively speaking. It's kind of hard to depart from that concept. I bought this used. It's a PVS 14. It's a 3rd gen tube, green phosphorus. I don't have that much more information on it. It has manual gain control, built-in IR. For what I paid for it, I paid under $2,000. It came with the Wilcox J-arm, which is already on its own a $250 J-arm. And let's say it didn't come with the Wilcox J-arm, I probably would have explored alternative options like I did for all my other gear. It is a nice arm. It's super nice to have. I like how it sits. It's not sticking out like a rhino mount like crazy. It's pretty solid. So I would have found alternative solutions. Another thing I do have on the device is a LLI purple filter on it. What this does, it kind of mutes the green tones of the tube into a more bluish tone. It's somewhat white phosphorus-ish kind of tonality. and to me it just looks better. I like the looks better. It's also I'd say a bit easier on the eyes. The thing with Gen 3 night vision tubes, there is definitely a decent range when it comes to PVS 14 at least of pricing, right? You can go, I'd say, anywhere between 1,500 and 4,045. Once you're into the Gen 3 territory already, the very high-end tube add a very kind of small amount of capability to the device. It becomes more of a preference thing, right? If you want a super clean tube, thin film, unfilmed, L3 tubes, white phosphorus, and you want absolutely no blends on it, there's definitely those options, and you can spend as much as you want on it. But I don't think the capability increase is very drastic from a $1,500 tube that it's still Gen 3, it's green phosphorus, and it has maybe a few little blends here and there. There's definitely a lot more things you can spend money on, but I just don't see the point in a $350 bump helmet that, for example, you look at the ObsCores helmet, and first of all, they have a molded in plastic shroud, which it probably is just fine, but even the padding on the inside, it looks super minimal. The retention system is just okay at best, but you're still paying like $300 something for a plastic helmet. And I don't know, to me it just seems kind of odd, right? This helmet, I tried it on, it's super comfortable. It is important to set up your counterweight, especially with a plastic helmet. You don't want the strain forward, but you want a balanced setup. Also, speaking of bump helmets, what I think is super funny, like when you watch movies or TV shows and you have all these super tactical guys in full kit running, clearing, breaching and all of that, but they're running bump helmets because you can clearly see the ventilation holes on top. It's like, well, that's a plastic helmet. Like you just shouldn't be clearing houses with that. I don't know, just a pet peeve. But yeah, overall, I think this is capable enough for the average person, and it's definitely attainable enough for the average person, especially if you're already thinking about spending the money for night vision. You can definitely, have a nice tube, but there is ways to kind of save some change here and there.